Alright, good morning everyone. Steve with West Virginia Cabin Living. Hey, it's spring 2019. So far this year is shaping up to be a lot better than 2018, where it was just incessant rain almost every day it seemed like. But a couple issues we're working on down here at the cabin. The wood supply is getting kind of low, not only in the firewood shed over here, but I also have a secondary stack out the ridge. That's also getting pretty low, and if you've watched my other videos, you know I like to keep a good dry wood supply. Got kind of a big stove inside the cabin, and the trick is to kind of keep a small fire in a big stove, otherwise it just gets too warm in there. Just seems like it's a lot easier to do if your wood's good and dry. But anyway, the other thing that's going on is my view here. It's been 7 years this August since I've owned this place. My view's getting a little congested with trees, so we're going to see what we can do to kind of rectify those two issues. And I'll probably also create a third issue in this, and I'll comment on that a little bit later and see if you folks have some solutions for me. But the tool, I guess, that we're going to use to try to fix all this is a 21-year-old chainsaw that I've taken excellent care of. Probably been one of my best purchases ever. Back in the day, I used to wield it with quite a bit of authority. Now that I'm getting a little bit older, I think it runs me more than I run it. But it's almost time, I think, to trade down to a smaller model. But again, this one here is in absolutely mint condition and been a very useful tool over those 21 years. So we'll get down here over the hill and get set up by the tree, and I'll just kind of walk you guys step by step on how I cut a tree. It's not necessarily how you have to cut a tree, but it's kind of a process that we learned in forestry school, and I usually practice it about every time because I do think it's safe, and I do think that it gets you out of some tight spots when you have a difficult tree. And I practice it on every tree just about, just to stay in I guess good practice with it, and that way when I need to make the cut, I can make the cut. So we'll see you down over the hill. Hello again everyone. Down over the hill here, we're beside the tree that we're going to cut today. If you care to look at the tree and look at how these pieces of bark kind of curl off like that, this is red maple, which is Ace rubra is a scientific name. Nothing complex here today, just going to take this tree and lay it straight down the hill, and we'll probably worry about getting it off the hillside at a later date. I've looked up at this tree to assess the hazards. There's really nothing on this side. This tree leans straight down the hill and a little to this side. So I'm going to try to do most of my work off of this side. I'm also going to use my escape route, which needs to be at 45 degrees. So if the tree's going straight down the hill, my escape route's going to be 45 degrees to that fell. So it's going to be right up there towards you guys. It's going to be my escape route. But first things first, we've assessed the hazards. We've planned out an escape route. I brought a wedge and a hammer as a just in case. I don't think I'll need it. It's a pretty simple fall. And we've also picked up and cleared some sticks out of the way, so in case something does go wrong, we have a really good clean escape route. So I'm going to get started with the first step, which is going to be the face cut. And I'll stop and talk a little bit about the face cut once I'm done with it. Little piece on starting a saw, chain brake forward, locked. I've started this saw once already today. It started. I'm just going to hit it and see if it starts. Put it right between your legs. Okay everyone, so just a real quick note here on the face cut. So the face cut is going to actually close as the tree falls. So you want your bottom cut and your top cut to come together perfectly. In this case, pretty close on this side, but I'm not real close on this side, so no reason to panic. If you don't take that out, your hinge will only go about that far before you start breaking fiber. So what you want to do is just take a quick minute, take your saw in there, and clean that up. That way you got a perfect face cut. So there you have it, just a few additional minutes or seconds buys you a pretty clean face cut. Now I did actually kind of angle my face cut down a little bit. I'm not real happy about that, but it'll be all right. So second step, so I'm going to move around to this other side of the tree, which is my safe side, and I'm going to do what's known as a bore cut or a plunge cut. So I'm essentially going to push my saw straight through this tree. Now to do that, you need to know the reactionary forces on your bar. The top of the bar, if you put it into the wood, it pushes the saw back to you. Bottom of the bar, if you put it on the wood, it pulls the saw away from you. This bottom quadrant of your tip, it's called the attack. This top quadrant is called the kick. So not that you can't use this top quadrant, but you need to be ready for that reactionary force, which can be really strong sometimes. So as I start to saw in, I'm going to go in with my attack portion of the tip, and then I will push the saw in, and as it starts, I will turn and go forward. You guys can kind of watch what I do here. Once I get it in, I'll stop and kind of talk a little bit more. So there we are, folks. We've got a saw sticking straight into the tree. And basically, is what I've done is I've stepped back away from my face cut. I want to leave what's known as a hinge. The hinge should be about 10% of the diameter of that tree. Face cut should have been about 20% of the diameter. So I've stepped back away from that 10%, pushed my saw through. Now I'm going to kind of come forward a little bit, establish the hinge that I need, then I'll start cutting my way out the back of the tree. And again, folks, no reason to hurry on this. You can see I was peeking around the side of the tree. What I'm looking for is how thick my hinge is on one side and how thick it is on this side. I'll cut a little bit more if I need to. If it's fine, I'll leave it alone. Just take your time, get your hinge in there. So now I'm going to start making my cut backwards. And it's what I'm going to do before I cut out of the back of the tree is I'm going to leave a little piece of wood. That's going to hold this tree until I'm ready for it to fall. Now is essentially what we have is a tree that's ready to fall. As soon as I cut this little piece of wood here, this tree's going to start down the hill. So at this point, if you think you have a tree that's going to set back on you or not start to fall down the hill, this is your time to set a wedge. So come over on your other side out of the way. You can tap your wedge in if you think you need it. I don't think that I needed it, but it never hurts to have just in case. So here we go. I'm going to nick this little piece of wood back here. The tree's going to start to fall. I'm headed that direction, out of the way. Good timber faller should never see his handiwork. You should never see the tree hit the ground. Camera person, I would suggest you do the same. Here we go, folks. We'll see if this thing hits the ground. So here we are, folks. Walk you through the mechanics of this just a little bit. Face cut should be about 20% of the diameter of the tree. Feel fairly comfortable on that. My hinge should be about 10% of the diameter. Maybe a little shy on my hinge. These are hardwoods though, so they tend to hold a little bit better. You can see the tracks on my bore cut right here on the stump. So you can see me entering the tree here, then I'm turning my saw and pushing straight through. So here's where my saw came out. You can also see me edging up with my saw to establish this hinge right here. Then, as I cut back, you can definitely see this piece of wood that I left here to hold the tree in place until I was ready for it to fall. And I think that is probably the biggest secret to this cut, is you are not cutting forward waiting on the tree to start to fall. You are setting the tree up to fall and dictating that moment of fall with this holding wood back here. So it takes a little bit longer, wears on your bar tips a little bit. Once you practice it enough, keep in mind, please, this is the first tree that I've cut down since 2017, so a little out of shape, a little rusty, but I'm sure that'll probably rectify itself as the summer wears on. But if you practice this method, it does get quite a bit quicker. Not saying that it's right for every single tree, not saying it's right for every single person, but it definitely works for me, and I can really see the advantages of being able to use it. And the way to master it is to use it every time. That way, when you do get to a difficult tree or you have a hazard or something, you can you can make the cuts the way you need to. So anyway, that is the beginnings of solving problems 1 and 2. And go up and probably get a couple pictures of the view real quick, see if that improved any. Need to get this in the wood pile split up and drying. But the other problem is somehow this tree here has got to go from there up to the top of the hill and onto the wood pile. So I've got a couple ideas in my head on how to do it. I'd be interested to get you guys' thoughts and see what the path of least resistance is here. But thanks for tuning in today, folks. Appreciate the company. Hope you enjoyed the video. Always cutting firewood is always just it's a blessing and a curse all at the same time. It's fun, but it's a lot of hard work. So enjoy the rest of your weekend and be safe out there. Thanks very much for your time.